Let's talk about how we would establish a connection to RDS, and we'll focus first on public connections, so connections that are not within the VPC. And we have a few options here. The first is we can use something like a database management tool, so Table Plus, dbeaver, Datagrip, Navicat. These are apps you install on your desktop computer. It allows you to easily interface if you provide your credentials like the DNS endpoint, the username and password, the port, and everything like that. So that is one option. You could technically use Cloud Shell. So Cloud Shell does not exist in the same VPC, but it can, if you don't want to use a local client, you could use Cloud Shell, and you'd have to install the DB client or a database driver in order to do that, but that is a possible option as well. The other way is that you have a database client or you're using a database driver with a programming language locally on your machine. So you don't necessarily have to do that through Cloud Shell. You can just do it from your local machine, because if public access is open, you can connect to that endpoint. The last one here is if you have a web application, and this is generally the way that you are going to access things, the web server is going to have a database driver installed. So like if you're using Java, it's JDBC. If you're using Ruby, it's like if it's Postgres, it's just the PGGem, or Active Record if you're using the Rails framework. And so that's the way that a connection is going to be established. Another few things I want to take a look here is connection string URLs, because you just might not be aware of those. This is a single string containing all the parameters to connect to a database. It's just a convenient way to pass it all, as opposed to having to specify every single thing as a flag. And most databases will support this, but there is variation for connection string because it's really dependent on the database driver or the database command line, how it's going to interpret it. So this is kind of what MySQL looks like: MariaDBs, Postgres, Oracles, SQL Server. Okay. And so the way you'd use it, so for instance, if you had the Postgres client installed on your computer or on wherever, you'd assemble that link and create it. So I'm just going to get my pen tool out to make this really clear. So here we have the protocol. So this is PostgreSQL. There's a few variants for Postgres here. This is the username, the password. Then we have the actual DB identifier, the region, the service, the port, and then the database, okay? So that's just for Postgres. And then obviously you should know your port. So, this one we're using 5432. You can change your ports on your databases to be whatever you want, but you'll notice that we are using the port here. So there you go.